Everybody, this is Lynn with Paper Life, and we are back for part 2 of our making a journal out of a golden book. I have completed my homework. I don't know about you guys, but I have my signatures done. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I figure out how big I'm going to make my spine, how I have a trick. I'm going to say a trick, but I don't know how many other people already do it. With my luck, everybody knows it. For figuring out where I'm going to put my holes, we're going to go ahead and we'll be making our spine, sewing it all together, and we may get around to putting the whole thing together. We'll see how long time takes. So the one thing I did already do is I put holes in 3 of my signatures. I have 4 made. The way I figure out my spine is, one, I never make my covers until I have my pages at least mostly together, if not completely done. Okay, so what I do is I line my pages up. They are about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm making my spine 1 inch. So if you have your signatures are 1 inch, make it like 1.25 inches. This is how I make up like a little jig, I guess, for sewing in my signatures. What I do is usually my spine insert that I'm going to be attaching it to is the same length as my signature. On this one, I did it a little bit shorter, and I'll show you why. But I cut a piece of paper. I use craft, and I cut them the same length as my piece of paper on my signatures. You have these great little lines, so I use them. I always leave 1 box before I start my first signature, and they're 1 line apart for each one. What I do is, for the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, is I take my piece of paper, I fold it in half, and then you fold it in half again. It gives you a grid line across to show you where you would want to sew them. Then I just puncture my holes accordingly. One of my newest tools that I've been using is this little thing, and it's actually used for woodworking. It's called a center punch, and what it does is basically leave an indent into your wood before you drill a hole to make sure you're getting in the center. Way more information than you needed. However, it works really nice for making holes for my signature. What I do is I take and fold one of my lines so that it sits in here nicely. It'll just fit into the crease of your folds, and then I mark each hole. You don't have to have it something like to center punch. Use a ice pick, use really anything. I use my needle a lot that I'm going to sew my signatures in with. You guys know me, I just basically grab and use whatever I have handy. Okay, so now those have all have holes punched in them. I'm going to set those to the side. The first thing I want to work on is gluing my inner spine to my piece of painted fabric. I did cut 2 straight edges. These are not cut. I have a bunch of junk mail because of elections. So what I did was I cut one piece. I cut a bunch of layers of this junk mail. And one of them that I glued together with just my tacky glue is the same length of my cover. This is going to be our outside spine. My inside spine that I've punched my holes in, this is what my signatures are going to get sewn through on, is, I want to say, about a ½ inch shorter. Hopefully all of this will make sense shortly. But I want to get the first part of this glued down and drying because I'm going to put a little bit of paint on the edge. I still don't know how much fabric I want to overhang my cover, so I'm not going to cut this piece down. All I'm going to do is glue this onto my piece of fabric, hopefully getting it nice and straight with my flat edge up there, my straight edge. I'm using 3-in-1. It's very similar to Fabri-Tac. I'm using it because it dries quickly, and I want to do this quickly. So hopefully we're not watching a 4-hour video. Okay, so I smeared some down. That's going to be a mess later. I'm just putting this up against this edge as close as I can get it. Now, if you don't have the junk mail, using something like the back of a scrapbook paper, using, let's see what else, a cereal box works really well because I want it to be about half as thick as the cover. So I'm not going to be using something like a book board because it's the same thickness as the cover. Okay, so now that I have that down and in place, I'm going to take my utility knife and I'm going to stand up to see, but I don't know if you can tell there is a little bit of an overhang, so I want to trim that off. This part of it I want as straight as I can get. Maybe cut that piece off. Come on, work with me. I'm going to take this piece down here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut straight across it. Now, I'm not cutting into my sides very much because I'm not sure if I'm cutting it straight. I'm just trying to get it straight across this edge right now. That is the only part I care about. And here is why. I'm going to take some of the same paint that I used a minute ago. You could grab a paintbrush. I'm just going to use my finger because it's what I got handy. And I'm going to put some across this edge. The reason for that is I want to make it where it blends in. You don't notice that as much as possible. So I'm trying to do this on both of these. Okay. So now that that piece is doing what it needs to be doing and hopefully drying on there, I'm going to set it to the side and let this glue dry a little bit, let this paint dry a little bit. And then we'll start working on our front part of the cover. Yeah, I like finger painting. Now, the nice thing about painting your fabric is it does make it much easier to cut, especially if you are like me and cannot cut a straight line. It does help. I'm going to pause you for just a second so I can go put this up on the counter and not wear it. Okay, I have that piece sitting over on the counter drying, hopefully not gluing itself to anything. Let's go ahead and work on cutting our piece for our spine covering. Okay, so let's think about how much of a overhang we want. I don't care how much of this back shows. So the piece I'm more concerned about is this front. I think I'm only going to do about a 1/2 inch. Now I also need to allow, well, how much am I going to allow? That's about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm probably going to actually allow 1/4 of an inch for the insert of the spine. I don't know what the heck you would call that. So I want it to be, I'm going to make this a 1/2 of an inch wider than my spine. I don't know if that made any sense. But what I'm going to do is take my fabric. We're going to flip it over. I'm going to try to put a little bit of a straight line on here. Get the paint out of my way because we don't need that anymore. So that now has a straight edge. Now, a lot of people I've seen when they make these books, I don't know if anybody else has done where it has a hidden spine. I usually see where they sew through the spine to put their signatures in. I don't know, I just like a hidden spine on mine, so that is what we're doing. Well, okay, I like a hidden spine on my journals. I have no idea what I will like on these because I haven't made one. We are experimenting as we go. So if you remember when we did part 1 and we were painting this, I made these pieces oversized. So all I'm doing right now is I'm not worrying about the size of it. I'm just trying to put a straight edge on it. Okay, we said that we wanted our cover to have I'm only going to do that 1/4 inch. So I want it to be 1/2 an inch to the spine. So what I'm going to do is come in here, line this up on my cutting mat. I don't like how I have that little piece of thread hanging out, so I'm going to give this another quick trim. Hopefully I can avoid it this time. Okay, I have my pen. I'm going to move this over to a full inch size to make it easier on the measurements. Wanted it a 1/2 an inch overhang, so here's where the cover is going to start. I'm going to go ahead and make a line for that. Just like that. I'm going to allow about a 1/4 inch more than what I usually do, but hey, we're going to go with that. Here. And then our spine itself is a 1/2 inch on mine. No, mine is a full inch. Yeah. So then I want another 1/4 inch line. Hopefully I'll be able to explain more why I'm putting all these lines here. I just find it makes it easier. And then we wanted a 1/2 inch overhang onto the cover. Now at this point, I'm actually going to cut this off. Okay, nobody follow those instructions I just gave because I measured the wrong side. Go figure. I need for this to be able to fold down over. So let's do that again. That was just a trial. I just wanted to show you what not to do. Okay, take two. Not gonna edit because that's just not what I do. Okay, we are gonna go over 1/2 inch. Then we're gonna do a 1/4 inch. Then I'm gonna do a full inch, which would be here. Okay, then I'm going to do another 1/2 inch. At least I didn't cut it already. I need one more line, another 1/4 inch. Okay. Then a 1/2 inch. Instead of making a line, I'm just going to actually cut this piece off. Hopefully cutting it nice and straight and clean. If not, you guys will get to watch me do a take 3. Okay. Let's see about how much of an overhang we have here. That is more down here than I want it to be, I think. Yeah, I'm going to say that's more than I want it to be. No, we're going to roll with it. Let's roll with it. At this point, I would rather have too much than not enough. So I'm going to take this and just for the ease of doing it and hopefully getting it straight, I'm going to mark 1 inch on the top because I'm going to have to put about 1 inch overhang. Anybody have any idea? Oh, there it is. Where I put that. I'm going to grab my Fabri-Tac again. I'm going to put a generous amount on there. I'm going to line it up on this 1 inch line that I made and these, the 1 inch line there and 1 inch line there. Okay, so all I'm trying to do is make sure that's nice and pressed down across there. Like so. Now Fabri-Tac is a good glue. It's waterproof. Well, okay, I say Fabri-Tac, but also that 3-in-1 that I'm using, it's a waterproof glue. So it'll get a real nice bond there. But I always like to reinforce my spines. So what I'm going to use is some of this packing tape. Besides, this will also allow me to kind of speed through this point a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just lay this on top of the spine that I just put down. Trying to kind of work it around the spine. like so. Okay, and here was why we made our lines on the fabric, is I'm going to take my covers and now I know where to glue them down to. So it makes it easier to place them on there without trying to guess, you know, what your distance apart is. So I'm going to put my glue. Now with the Fabri-Tac, it's actually acetone based a little bit, so it will help melt through this tape so you don't have to worry about it not adhering. So if you have an allergy or you have sensitive skin, please be careful. Don't be doing what I'm doing and doing it with your hands. Take all needed precautions. And I'm going to put my back cover on at the same time. Hopefully I didn't put that on upside down. Like so, kind of lining it up with our pieces. So what we have is this on here. Now my spine is smaller than my cover, or not as thick as my cover right now. And that's so when I add that other piece in there, it doesn't make it too thick. When you put your fabric on your covers, when you want to be a little more careful with how much glue you put on there so that it's not squishing out like mine's trying to. Now Fabri-Tac does dry quickly, however it does give you a decent amount of work time to kind of finesse it into place. Okay. So the next part of this that I'm going to do is take this and fold it in on itself like that. But I want to make sure that gets a nice, good, secure bond before I start moving it around, because that is not something I usually do. I'm usually rushing, go figure. And all I'm doing is trying to clean up my glue that has squished out everywhere, go figure. I just keep trying to kind of flip it over to make sure I'm not interfering with this fold in here, because we want our book to have what looks like more of a natural seam, like a store-bought book would have. Why not? Okay, I'm going to give that a moment to dry. I'm going to pause you so we can cut back on how long this video is. Once this is dry and the other seam the other spine that we've made, the paint on that is dry, I'll meet you back here and we'll go ahead and sew in the signatures, and we will put our inner spine in. Be right back. Okay, with the magic of the pause button, I'm back. What I've done is I took my inner spine piece that we already glued down. I did the same measurements we had done before, the 1/4 of an inch, the 1/2 of an inch on both sides. Then I cut down because we don't want it to be any longer than this piece right here in the middle. I punctured my holes through. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and stop this video for the time being, and when we come back, we'll hopefully be doing the final step of sewing in the signatures and combining the whole thing. So we'll be back shortly.